Okay, so what I don't have today is a whole bundle of slides. So we don't need to worry about slides pretty much. We're going to talk about Pester and how we can use it to validate our PowerShell. Jordan is going to take this a whole bundle of steps further, because with Pester, what we can do is you can validate the existence of things. So Jordan's going to talk about DBA checks, which is going to validate a SQL Server estate. But today, we're going to talk about Pester. And I said no slides, and the first thing I'm going to do is now show you one slide. Okay, so we're going to give you this one, and I'm going to say from the current slide. Oh, great. Awesome. Look at this. It's like almost like I'm a professional. We've got everything the wrong way around. So do you want to swap over there? Okay, no, so it's not going to show you the slides. So you can have a look at the other view, and we will deal with that. If you go to this URL, github.com/psconf.eu, that's the PowerShell Conference Europe, and you're going to find this particular repository. So, yes.
Sorry, can you share your screen?
Am I not showing my screen?
It's that
No,
showing, yes.
That's good, because then you didn't see all the mistakes I made.
Thank you.
More than welcome. So I said no slides. So now you don't get to see any slides. Oh, dear me. Look at this. What we're going to do is we're going to follow along with this PowerShell Conference Europe Pester follow along. So you can learn about Pester. And what Pester is a it's a module written by or maintained by a fellow called Jakob Yaris, who works for Microsoft now. And what it is for unit testing PowerShell. So we're going to start here, and we're going to learn how to unit test PowerShell by doing some unit testing of PowerShell. Now, I love going down rabbit holes. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and Claudio and Jordan will just answer them because they're amazing. And if there's anything that they think that we should do, then they're going to shout out at me, and we're going to get on and move on. Like, one of the things is make sure you've got your screen shared. So if you go to this URL, I've put it in the chat as well, and you can then clone it to your local machine using either SSH if you've got a key, or HTTPS if you have not, and you get it down onto your machine. Once it's onto your machine in Visual Studio Code, you're going to have something that looks exactly like this. And what this is a PowerShell module that somebody has built. Okay, and the reason for this module is so that you can explore how to resolve issues with your PowerShell and make sure they don't happen by using Pester. And this module is all about runners. So I know there are people who like running. I mean, Teob's one of them, and Claudio's here, and I know Claudio likes running. I hate running. Jess doesn't like running. We like to cycle, ride our bikes. But if we've got a runner, one thing you might want to do is know if I have some tracks to go and run on. And the first thing we're going to simulate is connecting a PowerShell to an API, because that's something that you're going to do a lot of. Okay, so in this repository, when you've cloned it and you've downloaded it, let me just make sure it's not listening already. It is, right? We'll just like that. We're going to run this code .api, and it's start server, and that's just going to start as listening. And if we then go to another session, so you need to have two sessions open, but that's easy to do in Visual Studio Code. And you can see that what we've got is no, don't do that. No, don't do that. That's not what we want to see. Let's go and kill that session properly. We stopped it. Right. We start the server, and it just says I'm listening. And then we start the process. There we go. And what we've got here is just some JSON. JSON's got a track ID, a track difficulty. Maybe it's got a GPS, a route already there. This one's Silly Sally's Path. This one's Bizarre Betty's Boulevard. We've got Eccentric Eddie's Expedition. You know, you get the point. Yeah. And these have got a track ID, a track difficulty, and a length. And the other thing that we have on here is our ratings. Our tracks are all got a rating. Track ID 1 is rating 4, for example. And what we do with those, he says, making sure he's got his notes to see, is we can then do something like this. We can load our module. So itmo, that's how we would do it if we were just doing it on the command line. Itmo is an alias of import module. See how Visual Studio Code helps us, tells us not to use the alias. Could actually go and fix that. But for right now, we're just going to load this module. And inside this module, we've got a get random track. So maybe I'm thinking, I wonder where I should go for a run at the weekend. I'm going to pick a random track, and it's going to be a length of 21 what? I don't know, bananas, something. So we'll have a look at our track. And here it says, this is our track ID. It's 6, it's picked, it's 21. This is Giggly Greg's Glide. It's got a difficulty of 1 and a rating of 4. So now I'm going to say, hey, Tail, here we go. Let's send the track. So send track, sending email to, honestly, this is Tail's email address with the attachment. This is where we're going to run. How about that, buddy? That's amazing. So this is simulating a PowerShell module that we might have written in the past that is connecting to an API that exists and gets some data and then does something with the data. And now we're looking at thinking, well, actually, now we want to make sure this is working correctly. How can this work better? Is everything working as we expect it to? We look at our module over here. You can see that we've got 2 directories. Hey, we've got a directory called private. That's got our private functions. These are the ones that are used to do the helping for the module. They're not exposed to anybody. And then we've got our public functions. These are the ones we've just seen. So we've just seen, where is it? Where is my mouse gone? We've just seen get random track. There we are. And we've just seen send track as well. There we go. So these are the ones that are available to us in our module. And this is how they are set up. So maybe we'll start with convert to kilometers. If we have a look at this function, works very simply. And it says, I'm going to convert any mile that I get in that's of a decimal, and I'm going to return the value times 1.60934. So this is converting from miles to kilometers. And this is what we do for Claudio, because if I tell Claudio he's running for 1.6 miles, that's sorry, 1.6 kilometers, he doesn't know that that's 1 mile. We say 5 miles, he doesn't know how many that is. So that's okay. We can use this function to help us do that. It's just going to do a little bit of maths. So how do we create ourselves a test file for Pester? What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one and put it into here. And this one starts with the word describe. So whereas this PowerShell has got a verb, get, and a noun, track, random track, this Pester language is called a DSL. And that means that we don't need to use all of these verb nouns. We always start our Pester tests with the word describe. I'm going to describe and we give it a title. So in this place, it's going to be the convert to kilometers. Now, to make sure that we're testing our file, our convert to kilometers file, what we're going to do is we're going to before all of the tests, we're going to use this word, before all, we're going to run the command path that we're running, convert to km.tests, and remove the tests and just make it a PowerShell 1 file. So literally that says just load this one function. So that's going to take this function and load it into our session. So it is available and ready for us. And then after that, we're going to get some tests. And all tests start with the word it. And we give them a name. 1 mile should be 1.60934 kilometers. And then we talk about an assertion. So here is our assertion. Convert to kilometers mile 1 should be 1.60934, because we know that 1 mile equals 1.60934 kilometers. Now, what we could do is we could Shift Alt down arrow to copy our entire block, and then we could say, right, so now 10 miles should be 16.1, and we could keep on working our way through. And look, Copilot's being really helpful and saying, here are, this is what the test would look like. Absolutely, we could do that. But wouldn't it be better if we could just loop through what we were going to have and have the number of tests come through? And then if something changes, if we need to update what's going on, we can make sure that we've got all of these things easy to be able to change. So we're going to use some templates. Now we're going to still start saying that this is our test, and we're going to say the name, mile in pointy braces should be pointy braces expected kilometer. I'm going to say for each, I'm going to loop through. I'm going to say for each one of these tests, and you set up your tests. And this is a nice way of doing it. So we have what we put in, our mile equals 1, and what we expect to get out of the other side. Our expected equals 1.60934. And then we can do 5, we can do 10, we can do 0. We can do as many of these as we like. And each time it's going to go through this for each. It's going to pick the next one of these. This mile is going to be written in the title like that. That's how we refer to it. And then it's going to be the expected. So this expected value is going to be written over there. And that's how we refer to it. And it says, I'm going to convert to kilometer mile. So this is just a normal PowerShell variable here. Should be the expected. Cool. So that works really well. So let's have a look at that in action. Let's see where we are. We're in our Pester follow along. So I am going to save this. Am I going to save it? Yeah, let's save it as, we're going to save it as our Pester follow along. And we're going to put it into private, keep the same name. Going to move over to there. Now, what we need to do is we now need to run this test. How do we run the test? We've got our Pester module. We just need to write invoke Pester and then give it the path to our tests, or give it a path and ask it to find all of the .tests files. It will automatically find any file that has a name with a dot and a test and a dot. So let's go for, we won't go for test, Rob, because that would be wrong. We'll go for private. And we will just let it run like that. Now it's going to run the tests. Look at that, magic, amazing. It's run all the tests and it says everything's good. It says all of my tests passed, 0 tests failed. There was nothing skipped. Oops, skipped. or inconclusive. Excellent. That's good. It found 5 tests and it ran 5 tests. Now, what we can do is we can have a look at our output, make our output detailed, run the same tests, and now it's going to look like this. So we've run the same tests, but we've run them with a different output. And you can see that we've got 5 tests here, but only 1 result. Here we've got 5 tests and 5 results. Maybe I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to do a pass through. I'm going to put Claudio here. Oops. Not very good at spelling. So we're going to invoke our Pester. We're going to run it in the pest. We're going to output nothing because maybe this is our CI/CD runner. Why do we want to waste CPU cycles on generating text when nobody's going to read it? We need to put a pass through. This is really important. If we want to capture the output of our Pester, we need our pass through. I'll do that. And what we get outputted is nothing. But inside our results, we have all of the information. What our container was, we'll come to that later. How long it took to run the tests. Which version of Pester we're using, which version of PowerShell we're using. What did we pass in and what did we get at the end? So we've got our 1 mile, got all of our runs, and then here we've got our tests. So if we did Claudio.tests, now we're going to get all of the tests that we ran, all 5, each one. There we go. So that's a very, very simple way of testing a file. What we've done is we've written a describe block. Before we ran any tests using the before all command, we have loaded that file into our session using a dot and a space. And then we run our tests. We've actually run both of them. That's okay. So that's kind of cool. And we could do something similar with this convert to difficulty number. We have a look at this function. What it does is it says for every difficulty, easy, medium, hard, return 1, 2, or 3. So that should be quite an easy test to make. So let's grab that test from my special. Here we go. We've got the tests saved magically place. And we'll put it into here. And we're going to run through the same sort of process here. So we're going to describe, give it a name. We're going to load this file before all. And then we're going to convert our difficulty for every value we put in. This is what we expect to come out. And we know that this is going to be correct. But maybe we want to check everything else. So maybe we want to say, well, if I put in a null, I would like this command to fail, to give me an error. So here's a scenario where we want to expect something else to happen that is outside of our code. It's not inside our code path. This is something external. If you put in the wrong parameter, I want you to give me an error. So convert to difficulty number and the expected thing that will give us an error. And then we put it inside our curly braces. And then we say should, that's our assertion. And this time we're going to say throw. Cannot validate argument on parameter difficulty. And maybe we want to do that old testing joke of, a tester walks into a bar and orders 1 beer. A tester walks into a bar and orders 2 beers. A tester walks into a bar and orders orange beers. A tester walks into a bar and opens curly braces 0 blah, 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 blah beer. A tester goes into a bar and orders very hard beers. We want to make sure that these things are happening. Well, if we want to do that, we can use our knowledge. We can write a test. if it's unknown, we can do our for each for our looping through. We're going to have our difficulty, and we're going to say it's going to be null, 0, very hard. And again, we run our test, and it should throw. So what happens now when we run these tests? Let's run them again. Let's move that up a bit so we can see. We clear the screen. And this time we're going to run 2 tests. Well, we're going to run our convert to difficulty and our convert to KM. So maybe we'll do it with a detailed so you can see that we are output detailed, Rob. You can see that we are indeed running all of these things. All of these things are passing. Now, just to show you what happens when a test fails, let me do this. Everything that should can also should not. So now if I run, you can see down at the bottom, it tells me I've got 1 failed test. If I look at that 1 failed test, it comes out and it looks like this. It has a minus instead of a plus, and it's in red. It tells me that we're failing for null, how long it took to run, how long it took to discover. And it tells me that I expected an exception with message like not fully qualified. Oh. Cannot validate argument on parameter difficulty. Okay. So we have got our error, and that's what it looks like. And what I don't have, go away and keep. The other thing we can look at for our assertions is if we change that throw, we can do a dash B. So we have a B exactly, greater than, less or equal, be in, be less than, greater or equal, be like exactly, null or empty, be of type, be true, be false. So these are all the different options of things that we can do. So they're probably going to cover all of the things that you would like to test. So let's put that back so that we know what we're here. So that's cool. So excellent. So when we are thinking about testing a module, what we should do is test all of our private functions, because if they all test correctly, then everything's going to be okay. That seems right. Okay. Here's a challenge for you. Let's look at this function. This is our getRandomTrack function. And what I'd like you to do is just have a read of this. It's a function. It's going to get a random track. It's going to take a parameter that's going to be a length. Going to validate on what sort of difficulty this track is going to be. Look at the unit for the distance. And then we're going to call our API. We're going to use the getEarl to get the tracks route. And we're going to put in the length of length and the track difficulty of track difficulty. And then we're going to check for if our unit's miles, then we probably should convert it to kilometers. And then we're going to send our routes. We're just going to get our routes by sending an invoke REST method to the URL that we've created. Anybody spotting the problem? Might be one for Jordan or Claudio to shout out to see if they spot it. Oh, everybody's gone to sleep. Okay, so the URL is built up of the length and the track difficulty. And then we say if the unit is miles, we convert to kilometers. But this URL value is the one that we take to here. So even though our convert to kilometer function is perfectly correct. We've tested it. We've validated it. We've done all of this testing, made sure it's doing everything correctly in our public function that our users are using. It's not going to work because it's going to not pass the mile length into the kilometer. So when we go and look for a route that is 10 miles long, instead of finding routes that are 16 kilometers long, it's going to find routes that are 10 kilometers wrong. And then Claudia is going to say, well, I haven't run far enough. I need to run further. So now we need to look at that. So now we need to think about perhaps we should look at the expected results for the things our customers are going to use, the people that are using these these functions. I'm reading that there. The people that are using these functions, maybe we should check that those are working correctly and that what we're putting in and getting out is exactly what is expected. So now we need to look at writing ourselves a test that's going to work on our function. Okay, so now I need us to take some little more steps further. First of all, we think about testing this function. What it does is it gets a URL. Okay, so how does that work? Well, that just joins us some strings together to make a URL. Okay, that's okay. And then, oh, I've closed the file. Good work, Rob. And then once it's done that, then we do this convert to kilometer, and then we invoke rest method. Oh, hang on a minute. We probably don't want our tests to run against our API every time we're testing our code. Okay, maybe we're rate limited. Maybe this is a cost implication. Maybe we just don't want to throw those things and break our API. We're not testing the API, we're testing our function. We're testing what we're running against. So in Pester, what we have is this thing called a mock. And what a mock does is it says, if you go and call this invoke rest method, instead of using the invoke rest method command that's in your PowerShell that's going to go to an API and do the thing, do this instead. And you can decide what this instead means. So that's going to be really useful if you are adding data to a database, if you are deleting data from a database, if you are removing files from a lakehouse in Fabric, if you are taking any sort of destructive action, any sort of constructive action, anything that's going to cost you money or your company money, you might just want to mock. Anything you're not testing. We just want to control testing the thing that we are controlling writing. So let's have a look at our mock. Go and find our get random track tests. And I'm going to copy those into here. Okay. So this time we need to do something different. If you remember, when we described our private functions, what we did was we imported our file into the session. So we .sourced it. That's what. Oh, good. You've got it open twice, Rob. Excellent. That's what this bit does. Yep. A dot and a space and a path to a file. That's going to load our functions into our session. But we don't want our private functions. We want our public functions, and those are inside of our module. So we're going to import our module from our script root, blah, 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 runner.psm1. That's where our module is loaded from. And we're going to force it because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're having this one that we're running, that we're making any changes to. Okay, Now we're going to do the same thing. Okay, we're going to write a test. So this time it is our test. And the name is gets the provided track when there is just one. Okay, but we don't want to run our invoke rest method. So we need to mock. And we do it like this. We're going to mock. We're going to pick our command name. We're going to say under which context we want that to happen. So that's within our module name runner. That's the name of the module that we're using. And then they say this part. This is the most important part. We're going to mock with. So in blue, we have our mock definition name. In green, we have our command name that we wish to mock, invoke rest method, in the context of the module name runner. And then if you call that function, I would like you to mock. And right at the beginning, we say mock with row. This is the default mock. Wait a minute, Rob. Isn't that going to cause an error? Yes. Yes, it is. So this is going to make sure that we don't accidentally run this command in our tests because we've messed up one of our tests. This is going to make sure that every single time that invoke rest method is called without any of the things that we do below, if it doesn't do any of those, it's going to throw an error for us. Okay, so we're safety first. This is holding us back, making sure that we don't make any radical mistakes, making sure we don't delete data, delete files, create expensive resources, whatever it is our code is doing. In this case, we're just calling an API, but maybe that API costs us money, so it's important. And now we're going to say, right, I would like to control what happens with this function. So I'm going to mock. Again, I'm going to mock the invoke rest method command. And this time I'm going to use this parameter filter. So invoke rest method says I have a URI parameter. That is the path to the API endpoint that we've got. I'm going to say if that is like anything /tracks question mark, then I would like you to return mock with. Remember, mock with is what I would like you to bring back. So I would like you to bring back track ID 123, track difficulty 1, length 9, this GPX, this name. Your question is, how do I know what this should be? How can I make sure that I've got this correctly? Well, it's easy. Whoops, especially if Rob presses the right button. Here we go. Remember when we did our get random track? The length, yeah, give us a length. Let's do 10. It gave us these values. So we can go and pick some values from our actual data if we want to. We know what it's supposed to look like. And then we can place them in here. This is what I'd like you to bring back. It's a PS custom object of this type. And remember, we've got a tracks URL and we've got a ratings URL. So sometimes we're going to invoke the rest method and we're going to go to the ratings. So this time we would like to get back what our ratings ID was. Remember, we had, where are we? Oh, way much further. There's our ratings. These are the ratings we're going to give back. So we're going to know that we're going to get back one of these. And that is, again, what this one looks like. Okay, so now that I know what is happening here, I can now make sure that when I call tracks, I get back a length of 9. when I use my mock. So my actual code is that. Yep. That's what we've already said it should be. We know it is because this is a simple example. But here we're testing that get random track with a length of 9. Thank you, Steve. Is absolutely going to bring back a name of John's Trail, a track ID of 123, a difficulty of 1, a length of 9, a GPX of this, and a rating of 4.5. And we know it's going to do that at the moment. And now, if anybody ever changes this code, this test will fail. So now we can ensure that our tests do exactly what we want to do. Okay, so let's make sure that what we do is get back the right things. We want to check. This is always a little bit confusing. Here we go. This is why I have these here. So because we assign length too late and we check the convert to KM function, we don't actually use it. So let's make sure that we fix that. I'm going to fix that by making sure that when we pass in a length of 9 and a unit of miles, that we should, and this time, instead of the should being what are we expecting to get back, this time is the should is what code do I expect you to run? So this time should expect you to run invoke rest method, and I would like you to use a parameter filter with a URI like length equals 14.48406, because that is the kilometer version of our 9 miles. Does that make sense? Hopefully people will be getting that. Let me just check see if there are any questions. Sometimes this one throws a few questions in.
Not yet. Everyone understands 100% of what you've
Awesome.
done so far.
Cool. So let's move on to the next thing. This time, what we want to do is we want to check our randomness. Now, checking randomness, validating randomness is really, really, really hard because random should be random and not. And this one really takes me time to get my head around. One way of doing it is to try using our should invoke again. And my cat is demanding food. Let me just fix that. Because you're just going to keep on going.
If you have any questions at all, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, we are going to assume you understand all of this and it's easy to you.
Thank you, Jordan. Here is a person that does not understand that we're doing presentation after however many years of doing presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to save ourselves with our invoke rest method with no parameters. And then we're going to check our mock with our tracks and our mock with our ratings. And we're also going to mock get random. Get random is just the default PowerShell command. It will take maximum, let's do 100. And you just see every time you do it, it randomly in quotes gets you the next value. Okay. And now we're going to say the actual value should be this. Weird, isn't it? because we're randomly going for something, but we're expecting to get this back. The other way round of doing it is that we pass in a bunch of example tracks that are the exact ones that we've pulled our values from, and some ratings. And then we run through 20 times. That's what the 1.20 does. 20, an array of 20. And every time we get a random track of a length of 9, which should, because there's a length of 9, there's a length of 9, there's a length of 9, should give us back these 3 results. Yep, we're getting random tracks. With enough tries, we should see all of our example tracks. And we're also going to check what happens if we don't have any tracks. Okay, and it should actually throw this. Let's put those into a Pester, and this time we're going to do it on public. We're going to do it on public. Okay, we're going to type in public then. What have we got? It gets to provide a track when there's just one. Oh, okay. This time we've got a runtime failure for our module. So we're going to remove module runner. I'm laughing at my cat who's still shouting at me despite the fact he's got food. And then we're going to run it again. There we go. So the error that I had was it said, I've got many modules named runner because we had one loaded in this session. And then in this particular test file, we loaded the module again. And Pester went, well, hold fire. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. And it failed. This is a good example of why you should always run your Pester tests in a new session, a brand new session, in an empty session. This is particularly important if you are testing the help or the synopsis or the parameter details in your functions. Because even if you reload your code, those help details don't get reloaded until you have a new session. So Rob didn't do that, so I had to remove the module. So we didn't have this module in our session, and then I could run my test. And this time it's passed 4 of my tests and it's failed 1 of them. And the one it's failed is it should get the provided track when there is just 1. Because my get random track code incorrectly had the units after it had built the URL. So I can fix that test. And this is how we would do it. Run my test, get a failing test. And now I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to put this code in and I'm going to save it. I'm going to follow my own advice. I'm going to kill this session. I'm going to open up a new session in my Pester follow along. And now I'm going to run my tests again in the public folder. So it's going to get my random tests, which means it's going to load my files, my function into my session again. So up arrow gets me my public. Now, yay! I've got all 5 of my tests have now passed. So I'm happy. Here's another thing that we would like to test. If you remember what I did in lost it. If I did what did I do? I did a track, the Control R, and look for track. There we go. I got a random track, and then I did send track. So I can hit the right arrow, I can get that suggestion, and it sends an email. Let me tell you, it didn't actually send an email. Okay? Because obviously we don't want to send emails from our test. So how did we make sure that that didn't happen? Let's have a look at our tests. We find our tests in my secret little helper. We're going to copy that one into here. There we go. And I'm going to make sure I delete. There we go. Close that. So probably what I did is I mocked send email message. There we go. I mock send email message with nothing. That's one way of doing it. But actually, how do I get this out if I mocked it with nothing? Sometimes when we are testing things, like as in writing some code and running the code and we want it to work and just see if it's working first, and then we're going to run our unit tests. What we can do is we can create ourselves some fake functions. Okay, here we've got some fake functions. This is going to convert our password because we haven't really got a password. This one's going to send an email message. So this is not going to send an email message. It's going to take the same parameters as the send email message, but it's just going to write out to the host this. It's not actually going to risk doing anything. And in our PSM1, where we are loading our files, what we do is we just .source this file. Remember, .source means that we are loading this function. And because of the way that PowerShell works, the last one that we load is the one that takes precedence. So because our fakes file has a get secret and has a send mail message, this is the one that gets overwritten. Excellent. So that's good. So we're going to validate our send track. We're going to import the module because this is a public function. Again, we know that we should be validating our public functions so that we're making sure that what our customer is doing is what is expected. What they're returning is what we want them to return. So it sends an email. Going to make sure that it sends an email. And mock all of these commands. Send a track. Okay, so we said here we're sending an email with an attachment. Now, we've talked about files. Those are something that's quite frequently we might want to create. We might want to be using the import Excel module to create Excel files for people because managers love Excel files. PowerShell is really good at creating Excel files. If we want to test making these Excel files, what could we do? We have this thing in Pester called a test drive. And basically that is a place where during our Pester session, whilst our tests are running, here is a place where you can create some files and at the end they get thrown away. So we can check that the files get created, that they contain the right values, that they have the right names, whatever it might be. Make sure that that's exactly what we want to do. And here we do exactly this. We set up the value of a track and we send a track. And now we say our track.gpx file, which is what we should have called from up here, should, oh, look at this for an assertion, file content match multi-line. And it should be exactly the same as the GPX that we passed in. Sorry, the GPX that we passed in. So file content match multi-line. What else do we have there? We come back to here and we do a control and a space. It's going to give us all of our assertions. I only showed you the B's, yeah? Be true, be exactly, be greater than, be less than. Actually, there's a load more than that. Exist. File content match. Does the file match? However, file content match multi-line. Oh, that's different. File content match multi-line exactly, precisely to the case sensitivity, exactly right. And we've got things like have count, type. We've got some of these aren't right. Regular expression, match exactly. It should have an expected message. Okay, there's many other things that we can check in here. Now we would like to go away, Copilot. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we're going to make sure that when we run send track, we should have invoked the command name send email message exactly once. Okay. I'm just going to fool you a minute. I'm going to do that. And we're going to run this Pester. Boom. Oh no. Hang on a minute. Sometimes when I write code, I don't get it. Okay, do a screenshot. That's not what we wanted. I don't get it exactly right. So now my send my sends email with attachments test failed because it should have called send email message one time exactly, but it was called twice. That's kind of neat, isn't it? Because I called it twice. So just to show you what happens when your code maybe goes down the wrong path, maybe your for each loop that was calling 10 things actually does it 20 times. These are the things that you would be checking. Maybe if you call send email message once, the next block of code that also calls send email message with something different shouldn't run, but it does. This is how you're going to identify these sort of problems in your code when you're writing it. Okay, and then the last one was it should throw also when the GPX is null, because there's no point sending an email message to Tayub if actually we don't have anything in there. So now what we're doing is we are defining our track values, this time in a different way. So we're defining what we're going to put in there. We've set the GPS to be null. Now it should be saying the GPX cannot be null. And that one did in fact pass. Wow. What a load of stuff that was. Okay, one more thing that I'm going to show you. This is the last one. And this one maybe is a little bit more realistic as to what you will see in bigger Pester tests. When I ran my invoke Pester, what I didn't run were many of these, actually not quite as many of these commands as I was expecting.
Hey, Rob, just wanted to let
Yes.
you know there's 5 minutes.
Oh, I know. I'm good. Thank you so much, Julie. That's real kind of you. So last thing, instead of passing in everything here, putting in all these values, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this new Pester configuration. And that means that I can, if I just run it here, let's just cancel that file out, clear that. Now, if we just run this one line of code with an F8, now I've got a Pester configuration object, and that looks like this. So that gives me the option to run, general runtime options, got filter options for excluding, I've got how much code coverage I would like to have, what I would like to export. So if I'm using Azure DevOps or GitHub, then I might want to use NUnit to export my file as a file format so they can be picked up and show me pretty pictures and graphs. Here we go. We could control our should. We can debug our tests. We can look at the output. What are we going to put in our test drive? We didn't talk about test registry. That's only available on Windows, but it enables you to, in effect, test making registry changes. And each one of those also has a bunch of options. So run has the things you'd expect, a path, but not that path. Or maybe just a block, or maybe some container objects. What should we do if a test fails? Should we return an object with our path through? These are all options that we can create. So now maybe we can create a set of configurations for different types of tests that we're running. Something we're running on a developer machine. Sometimes we're running in a CI/CD. Maybe we want to get all the output. Maybe we want to get none of the output. Here we go. So we're now going to say, I would like my output verbosity to be detailed. I would like my code coverage to be enabled. I would like you to check that you are covering the code in the public directory, the private directory, and in my runner.psm1. I'm going to have this particular output format. I never understand what these mean, but I would like it to go into the coverage.xml. I'd like the test result enabled. I'm going to have this sort of format in this file. We'll pass it through. Okay, now I'm going to run that. And this time, what it does is it runs, you notice, I didn't pass in anything. I said, use this configuration. It's going to take all of those values up there, put them into this results. If results failed count is greater than 0, tell me, and then bomb out with a 1. So I'm not going to do that because we're going to go and have a look over here. I've got a test results XML. I hate XML just like everybody else does. But if we have a look here, you can see it is the XML version of our test results. There are results. Here's what we have. We can look for things that have passed and failed. Oh, and I could never find them. In fact, let's just search for failed. There we go. Fails for null. Results failed. Oh, maybe I didn't fail. I didn't fail any. I'm looking for failed tests, but I should have read my test results. I haven't failed any. Here are all my past tests. And my code coverage. How much of my code coverage did I get? All of it. Nothing has come through as being failed. So instead of passing through all of these values each time that I run, I can create a set of configurations and then use those. Okay, so that was a run through of Pester. Again, I'll tell you that you can do exactly the same. If you go to this URL, this is github.com psconf.eu, and it's the 2025 Pester follow along. And this will then allow you to check what happens and write your own checks. If you wish to see some of the other stuff, then you can ask me. Otherwise, that feels to me like there or thereabouts the time. And I would like, if you have any questions, people can ask.
Yes, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Don't forget, as Jordan said, the next meeting is December 10th, and it's automate your database checks with PowerShell. So I did not realize that Pester was behind all that, the DBA tools.
So one of the things I always say is that as well as this whole unit testing that we've done here, is anything that you can get with PowerShell, you can test with Pester. And Jordan will tell you all about that in December.
Super. Well, it doesn't look like there's any additional questions. Really interesting session. Thank you very much. And I'm glad you got your power back.
Yeah, so am I. It was a little dramatic for just 5 minutes, but everything worked out okay in the end.
You gotta have power for the treadmill.
Absolutely, definitely that. Yes.
But yeah, that was fantastic, Rob. I don't think I've seen like a dive into Pester anywhere else before.
Thank you. It's I love it. It's fascinating. And like a PowerShell conference, they go really deep into it. So there's some fascinating PSconf.eu videos on the YouTube if you wanted to get real deep. Jakob can take you as deep as you like. Interestingly, when we talk about DBA checks, when we were moving that from Pester 4 to Pester 5, we actually used another one of Jakob's modules and found some errors in Pester itself. So DBA checks and DBA tools have actually given benefit back to the PowerShell community by improving the Pester testing module that we had. So you can always reach me if you would like to find me. The best way is to look there, use one of the many social media options, and you can feel free to get in touch with me. Always happy to answer questions. It's always your responsibility to remind me when I haven't answered them, because you can imagine we deal in a flood of messages and emails and think, oh, I will do that, and best wishes come through. Otherwise, I hope you all have a most wonderful and magical Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you all on December the 10th.
Thanks again. Thank you very much, and thank you for having your assistance with us.
Yeah, we often come as a pack. We're very
Yes.
good, even if one of us was on a train, and I think Claudio had to go do some work as well. So
Yeah.
we try and do the most we can. We will all see you in December.
Yes, see you then.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rob. Thanks,
Ciao, ciao.
Julie.
Thanks, Jordan.